Well, I said that the Steelers needed to win on the road against a bad football team and not only win, but win by 2 scores. And thankfully, they did. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcasting Network and Steelers YouTube channel. My name is Chris Halicke. To my right, Greg Macafee. To my left, Matt Williamson. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's happening?
How we doing?
It's another time that we're going to be talking about Steelers football. The team is now 4-2. Granted, this was a game they needed to win. They should have won. I know we all kind of had our trepidation when it came to actually picking them to win, but they did win. They should have won. Let's take a look back at that game really quick just to see what went right, what went wrong. Obviously it wasn't perfect. I know they won by 19 and scored more than 30 points for, that's kind of been like the landmark number that like this team has needed to hit in order for people to be like, oh, well, the offense isn't doing anything to score 30 points. Well, they scored 30 points. So, Greg, just overall first impressions, what you took away from the game and, anything that kind of stood out to you that's still being a red flag.
I mean, the first Raiders' first offensive drive was a little bit scary. How they were able to march down the field, but the defense kind of settled in, was able to create a lot of turnovers, and kind of get back what they're known for doing. They were pretty dominant the rest of the game, from what I was able to watch and everything like that. But what kind of stood out to me was the way the running game was able to have success on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Najee Harris put together his best game of the season and one of the top games of his career, so I thought that really stood out because if this team is going to have success moving forward, that's the type of performance that they're going to have out of Najee and Jaylen Warren as well moving forward.
Matt, what did you like about the game? Obviously, a lot of yards on the ground, but I still think Justin Fields did some good things with his legs, but not so great in terms of a passer. Some good, some bad. What did you like about the game and not like about the game?
Yeah, Najee was really, really impressive. And while Warren's kicking the rust off and the O-line's a work in progress and the passing game wasn't sharp. And one stat to kind of back up some things here that I think might shock some of our listeners is the Steelers have the NFL's best second half point differential. I mean, they're plus 44 in the second halves of games. And the offense averages 1.5 points per drive, which is 25th in the first half of games, compared to 2.29, which is 8th best in the second half of games. So I think you can look at that two ways. Like, why are you starting so slow? We know you have it in you. You can do better things in the second half. Or maybe this coaching staff is really good at halftime adjustments and wears people down with their physicality. So I'd like to get better answers from those things. And I don't think the Raiders supplied us many answers because I think they really stink.
Yeah, that is true, and I do think that's a really good variable to throw in there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna bring up a name that's gonna irritate a lot of Steelers fans, and I'm sorry about this, but it's true. I remember back in the day when Sports Illustrated used to come out with their video yearbooks for the seasons that would show the recap of a season. Those kind of got me through my childhood at times. And, if I was missing football and it's in the middle of June and there's no football going on, I could always pop in one of those tapes in the VHS. Let's just date that really quick. And one of the ones that I remember was the 1993 Steelers video yearbook, and Neil O'Donnell himself said, you can't have a slow first quarter, warm up the second quarter, and have a great second half and win. You can't do that in this league. And that has never changed. That was 1993. It has not changed. You're playing with fire if you're continuously playing really good for 30 minutes every game, but then the other 30 minutes, you're not playing so well, and you're kind of letting the other team hang around, or just like what happened in Indianapolis, go up 17-0, and all of a sudden you're trying to climb out of a 3-score hole. It's too difficult to try to do that on a frequent basis. And so, yeah, I do agree. They need to do a better job of starting fast. The first drive against the Raiders that the Raiders had didn't concern me nearly as much. Like, obviously it's not good to see them, just march down the field, but like players told DK after the game, players told me after the game, they're like, that was their entire bag of tricks.
Yeah.
They put their entire bag of tricks out in one drive. And it's like, that's all you got. Like we can make adjustments. And that's exactly what happened. The Raiders didn't do anything for the rest of the game, except for one drive where the Steelers went into full-blown prevent defense and being like, all right, we'll just kind of let you do what you want. We're already winning this game anyway. So I thought it was a good game for them overall, but yeah, I want to see them do it against a more formidable team. The Raiders are not a good football team. They were banged up to begin with. They were missing some really good players. It's just not a great, not good. It's just not a good football team. So I think they'll definitely have their hands full this week. And I think we might as well just go ahead and jump straight into that matchup. Like I said, 32-13 was a score last week. That's how this team should have done against an opponent that bad. So we're just going to go ahead and take our first break. And then that just gives us more time to dive into this matchup against the Jets, because despite the Jets being a 2-4 football team, I think they're much better than their record indicates. I think they present some serious challenges for this team on both sides of the ball. And so I think we'll just go ahead and jump straight into that right after we come back after this.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, the Steelers are back in prime time. Sunday Night Football, the Jets come to town. High-profile game. Going to be some former Steelers in attendance. Going to be a former president that's currently running for president in attendance. I mean, it's not Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg won't be in attendance, at least not that we know of. I would think I would prefer that. And seeing Snoop Dogg in press dining was actually kind of cool. But either way, it's going to be a big game.
Maybe you'll get Taylor Swift on Christmas Day, you know?
The Taylor Swift versus Sierra on Christmas Day. That'll be fun. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, because I don't think that this is an easy matchup whatsoever. You can't just look at the record here and think, oh, well, the Jets are 2-4. This should be an easy W. Chalk it up. Before the season, I did say that I thought the Steelers would split the games between the Cowboys and the Jets, with the more likely win being against the Jets. I didn't like the way the Steelers matched up against the Cowboys. Of course, that was before the Cowboys were as banged up as they were, but I still thought that this might have been a winnable game. And just based off of what we've seen over 6 weeks, I have my concerns. Greg, I'll kick it to you first. What is like one thing that really stands out to you of how the Jets can be really dangerous against the Steelers?
Well, I mean, you look at the secondary. I mean, first of all, I mean, they have one of the best defenses in the league, with their secondary, and their passing defense is the second best. They allow 148 pass yards per game, which is the second best mark in the league. And obviously that's where the Steelers have struggled this year. So I don't think that bodes well for the Steelers whatsoever, kind of heading into Sunday night.
Matt, what about you? What's really standing out to you in this game so far? There's a lot of different matchups that I think could kind of give the Steelers a bit of a hard time. But what's another thing that's kind of just really standing out to you of being like, okay, I don't know if the Steelers are going to win this one?
Well, there's a lot of individual matchups, but kind of some broader stuff that really worries me is I think this is a desperate football team. You know, so going back 2 off seasons, even when they got Rodgers, they really pushed their chips in the middle. And this past off season, they doubled down, and then they tripled down by going and trading for Devontae Adams. They have the longest playoff drought of any team in the league, 13 years. I mean, and it's 5 more than anybody else, and basically 10 more than the majority of the league. And yeah, I think ownership is tired of it, and they're pushing all their chips in, and now they're on a 3-game losing streak. And they made it a huge trade that we just alluded to, as well as a coaching change. And they have a lot of good players or formerly great players. I mean, they have more first-round picks on their roster than any team in the league. And Tyron Smith, for example, is not having a good year, but he's probably going to the Hall of Fame and is one of the best left tackles we've seen in the last decade. They got a lot of those type of dudes, including their quarterback. And where I'm going with this is these guys have been around the block and realize 2-5, we're just going to add another year probably to our playoff drought. And we have to win this game. And we know what it takes to win in this league. And that scares the heck out of me.
I do think that does play a factor because again, these aren't robots playing the game. These are human beings, and desperation and momentum, intangibles do play a role. They absolutely. I mean, there's no two ways around that. I do think that part of the game does get overlooked, especially nowadays when we can get so caught up in analytics, and especially in football with EPA per play and completion percentage above expected and all these other stats that we like to look at. And I think they're valuable for sure. But yeah, the human side of the game is absolutely the human side is absolutely a thing.
And Chris, along those lines, looking back at it in hindsight, the Colts and the Cowboys needed that game more than the Steelers too. They were nearing that part of the season where it could really get bad quick, and the Jets are already there.
I mean, we saw what happened to the Cowboys after they lost this past weekend.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team. The only other side of it to me that kind of stands out of being like, okay, maybe this could be a game in which the Steelers actually do pull this off, and it almost doesn't matter what the Jets do, is that it would be very, very Jets to make this coaching change, to pull off a trade for Devontae Adams and still fall to 2-5. It would completely fall in line with exactly what the New York Jets are. But at the same time, I'm going to go on the field a bit. I am concerned with, and this is mainly just because of seeing what Joe Flacco did to this defense, to the cover 3 that the Steelers run.
Dak as well.
They don't blitz a lot. The Steelers are I think they're dead last in the league in blitz rate, and Aaron Rodgers just gets the ball out quickly. And if you can't get to him, he's gonna pick you apart. And that I am really concerned with that part of it. And to me, even if it's a close game late, I just think that Rodgers can at any moment turn it on. And if you go back and look now, I haven't pulled up the actual numbers. I'm still in the process of doing that. But just going back and trying to remember how Aaron Rodgers has played against this defense, in the past. I understand like it's not fair to look back at past defenses because of personnel differences and schematic differences and everything. But the Steelers have predominantly been a cover 3 defense, for that's just kind of who they are. And
Tomlin's been here a while.
Right. Right. So, you go back to Super Bowl 45, you go back to even the regular season game in 2009, in which Ben had the final, last second pass to Mike Wallace in the end zone, that over 500 yards passing. Rodgers still had a good game, and then Super Bowl 45, obviously the Packers come out on top. And then I think it was the last time they played when they were in Lambeau, and that famous GIF came out of Tomlin and Rodgers just kind of nodding at each other and winking at each other and everything like that. Rodgers looked, it was just, I feel like this is the type of defense he would thrive against. And so I don't feel great about that at all, even at his age. So that's a big thing for me. What is one thing the Steelers do you think can do, Greg? What is one thing this team do you think can do against the Jets to give them a chance to win?
I mean, I think if you look at it on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, we saw what the Bills were able to do. Ray Davis in his first start this season was able to kind of churn up the Jets defense on the ground last week. And, obviously we saw what Najee was able to do. And with Jaylen Warren a week healthier coming back from injury, I think that's something that they need to focus on is just, leaning on running the ball throughout the game, eating the clock. And I think that's what's keeping Aaron Rodgers on the sideline. I think that's what they need to do and what they can do this weekend.
You agree, Matt? Do you think that do you see the Steelers being able to run the football on this team? Because I mean, the Bills did it last week. So do you see the Steelers being able to run the ball on this Jets defense?
It's been a problem for the Jets without question. I'd feel a whole heck of a lot better if Zach Frazier was at center, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
there's no doubt about it. I mean, that was one of the avenues I was thinking about going down whenever you mentioned what worries you most. And I thought McCollum played well, but Frazier, I think, is a really, really good player, and I'd put Quentin Williams right over him a lot. A couple advantages I think certainly need to be mentioned, though. they're much better than the Jets across the board on special teams. I mean, Vegas thinks this is a 2-point game. They get the better kicker. They make more big plays. They have better return game. That's important. I mean, and there's no question in my mind about that. Mentioned Frazier's out, but Highsmith's in. And I think their older tackles have not played well, or as well as their reputations. And their guards are really no match for Hayward or Benton in the past game. And Rodgers has been taking a lot of hits and really looks like he doesn't enjoy it one bit at his age, and that happens to all those guys,
Just knowing, I mean, I don't know Aaron Rodgers. I've never covered him before, but just knowing everything that we know on the surface, just putting it that way is just absolutely golden. Just being like Aaron Rodgers, just taking an absolute shellacking and just being like, thanks guys, appreciate it. Like,
yeah, I'm going to go host Jeopardy now or live in a cave or something. Right.
Yeah, I do think that if the Steelers are to win this game, it is going to have to be on the ground. And I do think that the mid-zone running game is probably the way to go. The Bills had success with it last week. The Steelers have that. They have those plays in their playbook. This is something that Arthur Smith can cook up. I do think that there is some gap stuff that they can do. I think that this is an aggressive front, so maybe you can throw in some gap schemes in there that help take advantage of the possibly, defensive linemen being, over aggressive and everything like that. You can possibly do that, especially with I think Jalen Warren does really, really good in those type of
I think he's a key.
runs. Yeah. And I think that this is a game that you have to now. I think Najee could do it too, because I think Najee's fine running the mid zone stuff and inside zone. I think, when you start getting to more outside zone, wide zone, you have to more run Jalen Warren, but I think Najee can have success with the mid zone and inside zone game, but I really do like the way Jalen's numbers and gap scheme and gap concepts have been phenomenal ever since he came into the league. And so I think that if they can try to get some of that in, it also helps simplify things for the offensive line. This is going to be the 5th combination they've had up front this season. This is the 7th game, and they're already on their 5th combination up front. So they've got to figure out a way to run the ball, but I do think that we've gotten some concerns, some this is the way they could possibly give themselves a chance. We have to talk about the quarterback position. Obviously, I think that's what everybody wants to talk about. We've gone 17 minutes into the show. We haven't talked about it yet, so let's just go ahead and dive into it. Mike Tomlin is being mum about it. Russell Wilson not being so mum about it. Yesterday,
George Pickens wasn't either.
Pretty much said, and then George Pickens today pretty much just let the cat right out of the bag.
Yep.
Don't tell him your deepest, darkest secrets.
Seriously, I think that's what. Isn't that what always open means? Is that he's not going to keep any secrets?
Yeah,
I can't take credit for that. One of our subscribers on DK Pittsburgh Sports said that, and I just was like, "That's the comment of the day right there." So that can't be topped. Anyway, okay, so it looks like Russell Wilson is going to start in this game. Overall thoughts. I have my own thoughts. I've written about them. I don't mind putting them, an abbreviated version of it on here. But Greg, what are your thoughts of Russell Wilson starting in this game? Is it the right move? What can he possibly do? What can't he do? Take it away.
I mean, I'm really intrigued to see if he's able to kind of open up this offense. Obviously, he's got a lot of experience in the league. He's been around for, I think this is his 13th year. He said it multiple times throughout the course of this season that it's his 13th year. So he's got that experience. I'm intrigued to see if his knowledge of the game, his ability to decipher a defense, kind of aids this offense to be able to kind of open it up a little by, putting his players in the right position to kind of, have success this season. I think it's one thing that we've all talked about that Justin Fields kind of struggles with at times. So I'm really intrigued to see kind of what he's able to do in this offense, and if it, looks a little bit different kind of moving forward, and if they're able to have success in it for sure.
All right, Matt, you've been talking about, this, okay, if it were you, you'd be putting Russell Wilson in, especially last week, we talked about that. If it came to this point and Justin wasn't playing well enough that you'd be putting Russell in, what's Russ going to do? What does he bring to this offense that Justin possibly can't? Because we know Justin's the better runner.
Of course. Right.
What can Russ possibly unlock in this offense?
Couple things. I mean, Russ isn't a stiff. I mean, this is not Ben's last year, Matt Ryan's last year. I mean, he could still move around a little. But here's the things that in the column of, and I'm a Fields fan, I really am, and he's outkicked my expectations for him. I think he still has a very bright future in this league, and I'm rooting for him. So it's not one or the other. But I think there's a couple aspects that I'm expecting Wilson to improve than what we've seen. Some of it, a lot of it, is just above the neck. Getting the plays in and out, recognizing coverages, pre-snap stuff, getting you in the right play, going to the right receiver with the football, running the things as the playbook shows us. We also know play action is a massive component of this offense. Their play action numbers are horrendous so far. And his career is tremendous, as is red zone passing. I mean, he is one of the best red zone passers in recent history. I don't know if he still has his fastball or not, but I know what he's done and what he's done recently, and red zone passing has been bad. We also know that teams are really crowding the box, of course, and they're triggering. If they're not in the box, they're triggering quickly to get into the box and come downhill and run plays. You have to hit some shots over the top. And those are all Wilson's strengths: deep passing, red zone passing, not throwing picks, being the adult in the room. And I've heard some people too just say that this offense is so young, so many moving parts. There's no Pouncey anymore. I mean, who's the leader on offense on third down in a foreign stadium? Well, it's Wilson.
Yeah, they definitely need more of that on offense. It is a young offense, because I understand like some people want to look at Najee and Pat and like, yeah, those guys definitely have their voice, in there for sure. But it is
all who's respected, but he's not grabbing anyone by the face mask.
Right. And they do, and Russ is definitely, and even George talked about it today, Russ is definitely a more vocal guy, a more vocal leader. That is more of his style. You talked about the play action game. That's actually kind of the thing that I think that's one of the things that's really been missing with this offense, because the play action numbers haven't been there. With Justin Fields, he's been a good play action passer in the past. It's not working out right now. Now, part of that may be the way that they're scheming it up. Part of that just may be the fact that the eligibles out there are just not very good. George Pickens is very good, obviously. Pat Freiermuth is not being utilized nearly enough. His targets are way down, way lower than they should be in terms of play action. And then just everybody else they don't strike a lot of fear into defenses. Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, it's nothing against those guys, but they don't strike a lot of fear into defenses. And so I've got the numbers here pulled up. So far, Justin Fields, and this is out of 33 quarterbacks, ranks 31st in passer rating out of play action. He is tied for 27th in average depth of target at 5 yards. His first read percentage is 47.8%. That's dead last. His check down percentage is 34.8%. That leads the league. And his pressure, now granted, his pressure percentage is third highest. So he's dealing with pressure more than all but two other quarterbacks. And he's avoided 4 sacks, which is tied for third. Now, part of that, again, it's not all Fields, but some of those numbers are not great. Now, here are Russell Wilson's stats from last year in play action. And this is out of 30 quarterbacks. He ranked 7th in passer rating at 117.2. His average depth of target was 9.3 yards. That ranked 6th. His first read percentage was 54.3%. That was also ranked dead last, and he also led the league in check down percentage. So it's funny because he was also dead last in first read percentage. He was also first in check down percentage. He was also third highest in pressure percentage, and avoided more sacks than any other quarterback, and still had a much higher average depth of target and a much higher passer rating. So that, to me, is thinking like that.
Some of those are Sean Payton stats, but you're
agreed.
Yeah.
And there are always other variables that go into it. You got the offensive coordinator, you've got the eligibles, you've got the offensive line, but the quarterback definitely has a role in that too. And I do think, and again, I don't think that putting Russell Wilson in all of a sudden is going to just get everything clicking in play action, and this offense is going to put up 35 points, and 3 of the 5 touchdowns are going to be scored on deep play action bombs. But could it help unlock some things so that maybe it helps open up the running game a little bit more? Maybe the defense can't oversell and can't load the box with 8 or 9 guys. So I that is the more intriguing thing to me when it comes to Russ coming in. I do have my concerns about his ability to avoid sacks at his age, especially with the offensive line that's in front of him. So I have
something in there that a lot of the concerns I hear are they're going to take more sacks, they're going to fumble more. And Wilson has a history of both. So I can't really defend that other than Justin Fields leads the league in fumbles, and they're getting sacked on 8% of their dropbacks. Only 5 offenses are at a higher sack rate against. They're just not in the top of the league in sacks because they don't throw the ball very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are already problems. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we need to go ahead and get to our picks for the week for sure. I am excited to see because I don't think we're all going to be picking the Steelers this week. Just my gut feeling. Greg, I'm going to give it to you first. What do you got for this week? Do you like the Steelers' chances? The line is -2 for the Jets right now. It was as much as 2.5. I think the line opened at the Steelers were given away or given a 1.5, and now the Jets they're getting 2 points from the Jets. So what do you have, Greg? What are you thinking?
I've been going back and forth all day on this, whether to go Steelers or Jets. I really like what I really like what the Steelers were able to do on the ground last week. I'm hoping that they can replicate it. I'm hoping that they can, I'm hoping Najee can turn out yards like he did last week, and Jaylen Warren, another week healthier, can kind of, get back to what he was able to do last week. But I also still think it's going to be a close game. I still think that you're going to see the Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams connection, which we didn't really talk about a lot today, but I think they'll be able to pick it up seamlessly. I think it's going to be a close game. But I'm going to go with the home field advantage. I'm going to go Steelers 2017.
20-17. All right, Matt, what do you got?
2 little things I would throw out there first are Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes have the best touchdown to interception ratio of any 2 quarterbacks in the history of the game. That probably shouldn't shock anybody. Russell Wilson's 3rd. Now, he was better 6 years ago than he is now, but
yeah,
I think that matters. And I also think it matters that Jeff Ulbrich, the Jets' new head coach, has coached 1 game in this league. Mike Tomlin's coached 299. That's a nice little advantage, including playoffs and Super Bowls. I am still taking the Jets, though. 22-17. I don't feel strong about my prediction. I am really, really excited about this game. Adams, Rodgers, new coaches, Wilson. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to get excited about. 50-year anniversary of Super Bowl 9, gray face mask. I mean, cool stuff.
Yeah.
I just think that this team is desperate. They know it, and they have a lot of star power. I mean, we don't even throw out names like Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner in this podcast. Yeah. I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah. No,
Quentin Williams,
The Jets have a lot of really good players for sure.
Yeah.
And they are banged up in the secondary. They won't have Michael Carter.
Yep.
DJ Reed is questionable, but he didn't practice all week, so he probably won't play. That's a big advantage for the Steelers for sure. If you're talking about
especially if they had a second receiver,
right? Yeah. If they did have and maybe this is the Calvin Austin breakout game. Maybe this is the Van Jefferson breakout game. Maybe it's taken to get those guys going is Russell Wilson. Who knows? Because we know Sauce Gardner is going to be following around George Pickens. So I am also going to take the Jets. I don't feel great about the Steelers. I just don't have a good feeling about this game. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to get blown out. I just don't feel great about it. I think it's going to be a close game late, and then it's just going to be a situation in which the pass rush can't get to Rodgers enough because Rodgers is just so good at getting the and the Steelers their numbers are not good whenever quarterbacks get the ball out quickly. And if Rodgers can get the ball out quickly, I think he could possibly even pick them apart. And I'm not feeling great. So I'm going to say the Jets win this game 24-19.
I mean, I didn't love what Flacco and Dak did in terms of picking them apart. Veteran quarterbacks against vanilla defenses.
Yeah.
And this could easily be worse,
I could definitely see a scenario in which the Steelers win this game, but I do agree. I think there is there is merit to the Jets being a more desperate football team. I also think the Steelers are pretty desperate in their own right. Yes, they're 4-2, but they also know what's on the other side of that bye week.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden that Washington game does not look like the easiest game in the world anymore. Obviously, now all of a sudden it looks like it truly is a gauntlet the minute they get back from their bye week, because it's Washington, then it's Baltimore, then it's Cleveland, then it's Cincinnati, then it's Cleveland. And then the list just keeps on going and going and going. And I understand that Cleveland and Cincinnati aren't the most formidable teams this year, but they're still divisional games. They're still not games that you just can't chalk up as wins. So I don't feel great. Like I said, I don't feel great about this game. I had the Steelers at 5-3 heading into the bye before the season. I honestly think that's where they're going to end up being. And I think that this is probably a game they probably don't win. Maybe they have a 19-17 advantage late in the game, and then Rodgers ends up hitting Devontae Adams on a big touchdown down the field or something like that. So I've got 24-19 as the final score. So, well, thank you guys for tuning in, for listening. We've truly enjoyed talking about this game, this upcoming game. We hope you enjoy the game for sure. Like, you know, Sunday Night Football, going to be exciting. Going to be a lot of people in attendance. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to be there at the stadium on Sunday night. It's going to be a blast. So we'll definitely recap this next week, and then get ready for the other team that plays in New Jersey, the Giants, next week. So we'll catch you guys on the flippity flip. We'll see you later.